So this is a meeting of the CSX Executive Committee Board. Under executive for quorum, we have quorum attained, Jack. We have, like I said before, Mike Mishhook, Judy Cherry, Jim Griffin, Jack Wheeler, Ernie Hartman, Tim Driscoll, all executive committee members. So you have quorum to conduct business. This is being recorded, everybody, just so that we can properly post it to abide by the rules and regulations. So Jack, I will hand the meeting over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I think it'd be helpful if to start you go over sort of the events of Thursday and Friday, just so the folks know kind of level set. I'm sure some have heard, but just a brief synopsis of what happened, where we are, and why we're looking for some action today.
Okay. So we've talked at a couple other meetings early on in this COVID crisis around CSS maybe applying for PPP funds. And it really was not, my opinion was that it really was not needed or necessary. I'd rather have the funds go to companies that needed it. The reason it wasn't needed or necessary is because the WIOA funds are federal pass-through dollars. So we're allowed by statute we're limited, however you want to look at it. We cannot have more than 5 days of cash on hand because we are, in theory, never more than 5 days away from WIOA cash. We need money. We ask the state for it. They turn around and ask the feds for it. The feds approve it. It goes to the state. They take their 15% cut and send the rest down to us. So that's just the way the WIOA and the WIA funds before that have always worked. So we knew that there were some delays in getting dollars. We'd been told that because we had applied for our usual batch of money on April 29th. We were told by the Department of Labor staff to staff, so this was Patty to her counterparts in the DOL finance staff, that there'd be a little bit of delay, that they had a speed bump going on, but not to worry that funds would flow. So I didn't worry. However, on Thursday, actually on Wednesday at like 4 o'clock, we had a call with the Department of Labor. They shared that the money was being held up. So we did some quick follow up on that. And what we found out was that and on Thursday, the state issued its first formal notice to all the WIBs that WIOA funds were being held up, that they were not flowing and that they would not flow until who knows when. So there was a lot of activity on Thursday, a lot of number crunching. It appears under the governor's new authorities granted him under the budget bulletin 1223. Discretionary aid and grant to local entities was held up. Let me read it. Well, actually, I don't have it here handy. So I'll read the relevant paragraph. So in B 1223, related to fiscal year 2021 spending controls, hold all discretionary local aid grants. Agencies should hold all discretionary local aid grants and awards until further notice. All essential or statutory payments are subject to DOB review and approval prior to release and should be submitted to your budget examiner in a timely manner for review. So it was that piece of that budget bulletin that basically had brought the entire WIOA cash flow system across the state to a halt. And because the state really didn't, and I'm not sure where in the state, they just didn't tell anyone. It really caught the entire system by surprise. So on Thursday, when we were doing number crunching, I did share with Jack that we had about $10,000 of WIOA funds in the local area. That Friday, when pay ended, we would have about $11,000 of WIOA payroll expenses, and which meant we were broke. I didn't have money to even pay staff Monday morning. So, yeah. So I had drafted up letters to kind of shut the system down as of Friday close of business. And was sharing that with Jack and was we were holding off. We had a lot of representatives involved in conversations to this. Jack actually knows probably more of the hubbub behind the scenes, but I can tell you that our congressional representation for just our area, our congressional reps, our state assembly, our state congressmen, I even think some local folks weighed in. There was some phone calls on previously scheduled phone calls that circled in our federal senator staff, Jill Brandon Schumer's staffs into it. So I think the unanimous thing across the state was that this is ludicrous. A, this is not discretionary aid grants. This is federal flow through money. And B, the system that is supposed to be helping all of these unemployed folks is shutting down at the very moment when historically we kind of need them. And so late on, so Jack and I, and I had shared with him that we probably needed, not probably, we needed to make the go, no go call, whether we were going to lay off all the WIOA staff midday on Friday. So I was working the phones. NIATEP was involved in it. We were still not hearing anything that the money was going to be released or flowing in any way, shape, or form. I did one last phone call at 11:46 on Friday in preparation for a very sad 12 noon email blast. And NIATEP said they would literally just seconds before had gotten off the phone, and they'd heard verbal assurances that DOB was going to release any previously asked for funds, and we would have it within 5 days. So based upon that assurance, we didn't pull the trigger. And then I will tell you about 6 o'clock Friday night, I did get a personal phone call from somebody. Her name was Vicky, up in the hierarchy, pretty higher level person in the Department of Labor, that did confirm in verbally over the telephone with me that my $25,000 request that we had submitted on April 29th was going to be released within 5 days. So as long as we truly do get that within 5 days, I will be able to make payroll that started occurring this morning. If for some reason there's a hiccup there, I don't have funds to pay staff that are working today. So I am confident, I am hopeful, I am all those things. But that being said, we've also been told, or I've been told, that this is not a guarantee of future flow. It's not like the Department of Budget and the governor's office and whomever else, up in the chain of command has acquiesced and said, yes, WIOA is not a discretionary funds, let it flow. This was a release on a whatever the workforce areas had previously requested. So if we get this 25,000 and if our payroll costs run about $11,000 of WIOA funds, at best, you're talking 2 weeks, and that's assuming we pay no other bills other than just payroll. So I had asked Jack if, and actually I've talked to Jamie and our bank is Shimon Canal, Jeff Kennefick over there. I had a chat with him about PPP funds, just to have some sitting in the background, just in case there's another one of these little speed bumps, that at least I can keep payroll running for a period of time. Because we're a 501c3, we do need to have a board resolution, which is why we pulled the impromptu meeting today together to seek support for a PPP application. If we don't need it, well, my plan is if we are awarded it, to accept it, put it in our bank account. If we end up not needing it, then at some point in the future, we'll just give it back and figure out how to pay the interest that's accrued on it during that time period. So that's a very long, ugly, scary story. I will tell you that in my 20 years, I have never seen at any time WIOA or WIA funds before that be held up like this. There's been a couple little hiccups, I think, in the Great Recession for a while. I think the governor at that time tried to do something similar, and it was pointed out to that governor's team, that that Department of Budget and whatever, that it's not discretionary funds. And that's not the intent of these dollars, is to be held up. And so it was basically a speed bump. That was the worst prior to this past experience here that we've ever had. I've talked to my other peers who've got 40 years of experience in the system, and no one has ever seen what happened in those 40 years. So it's unprecedented. It truly caught me by surprise. It's my fault. I probably should have stayed on top of cash orders 3 weeks ago, but it just didn't even cross my mind. So for that, I apologize. But but neither here nor there, I guess. That's our reality. That's kind of where we're at from a background perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And I think you're absolutely right. I think, it gained a lot of attention, especially on the state reps helped us escalate it quite a bit, preparing to go to the media with it as well, because from an optics standpoint, let alone a legal standpoint, it wouldn't look good for the governor's office to be holding up business development and workforce development funds, in a time like this, especially when they're federally obligated. The federal reps are probably more important in some ways because they are very concerned about this, because they're just embargoing what are really obligated funds. So we're going to stay on top of it. I mean, I would hope that, what I really believe is that the state just had to, hold the cash to make their own payroll or something. But again, they need to communicate it better so that, we're not having last minute conversations about laying off staff and things like that. But I fully support the concept of applying for PPP just as a backstop, because I think we need it. So looking for comments or questions from the rest of the group.
Is the response to the PPP, does Jeff say that the response is such that it will be timely? I mean, we apply today, we have an approval. They're supposed to be able to give an approvals right away.
Yeah. He said, if we get the application now, there is still funds. I need this resolution. I've got to get my 941s together to verify the amount. He says, hopefully in a perfect world, I could even have PPP funds if we did it early enough today, maybe today, but probably tomorrow or certainly within a couple of days.
That's great. I certainly am. I think you're doing a great job of managing it. And I'd make a motion that we apply for the PPE funds immediately.
I second it.
Good.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the group?
No, I
Hey
think.
Jack, this is Bruce. I'm an employee of Chemung Canal. Just want to put that on for record. I'm not sure how that would affect any voting on my behalf.
Okay. Yeah, probably, avoid that, but no, I think we're good.
Okay.
And Dana, as long as this was made and this was a good faith effort and you document the reasons for the application, I think you're covered.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As long as you don't go over $2 million, after $2 million, it becomes something they're going to audit.
Right.
Yeah.
1,999,000.
Mhm.
We won't even come close to that, unfortunately.
Does that include board expenses?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right.
Our
So
social distancing trip to the Bahamas.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. There you go.
Okay.
You need anything else?
As long as I have you on here, I have been asked to consider a position on our state association's board of directors.
Sure.
I just want, it would require occasional travel and probably some mileage expenses to attend meetings.
For you.
Normally I just sort of bounce this off, structure executive committees as long as we're here, because I do need to tell them yes or no by next week. They just hit me with it. What's the board's feeling on my participation? In that?
Have fun.
Yeah, this is Jeannie. I think, Dan, I think you are a state leader, and I think the recognition of that is valid. And you should do it.
Yeah, right.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay.
All these meetings will be virtual for a while anyhow, so have fun.
Yeah, right.
Have fun. Yeah, that's the word. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I apologize for throwing that in there. It was just, it's timely. So as long as we're here, I'll ask the question.
No, it's good. Any other business for the committee? If not, motion to adjourn, please.
Motion first by.
It sounded like Judy and Tim.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Dan.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye now.